Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of From My RPG Library. My name is Patrick and I am your host, and today we're going to be taking a look at a new book. This is the Anarch book for Vampire the Masquerade 5th edition. As I always do, we're going to talk about what I liked about the book, what I didn't like about the book, and how I plan or suggestions on how to use it in a campaign. But before we do that, let's take a look at the nuts and bolts of the book. Anarch was written by Matthew Dawkins, the Gentleman Gamer, and Johanna Peterson. Probably not saying that correctly, and I apologize. Artists for this book include Thomas Arford, Jer Carolina, Mary Twisted Lamb Lee, Sarah Horrocks, and the CCP Atlanta art team directed by Rainer Horison, and I probably didn't say that correctly either. I apologize if I'm butchering your name. It is produced by White Wolf Entertainment and published by Modifius. It is available in both hardcover format from the Modifius website and other websites, as well as in PDF format from DriveThruRPG. So my thoughts overall on this book: I enjoyed the book. It's done much like Beckett's Jihad Diary and the Camarilla source book. It's written in a storytelling format, meaning this book is a collection of stories written from the perspectives of Anarchs living within the world of darkness. I greatly enjoy this style of source book. It's not all stories. There are some section on clans and disciplines, which is great. It gives you some, as a storyteller or even as a player, it gives you some extra information besides just stories. So let's dive into what it is that I enjoyed or liked about the book. First thing is, as I stated before, I greatly enjoy the storyteller aspect of this book. I've mentioned that in Beckett's Jihad Diary. I mentioned that with the Camarilla book. I even mentioned that with Mordenkainen's Tomofo for D&D. I like sitting down and reading a source book in such a way that I feel like I'm actually being entertained and enjoying it. It's a lot different than reading a instruction manual. Players' handbooks can be very instruction manual-ish, which in my opinion makes them difficult to read, and why I struggle sometimes reading through those. Now, I have to take players' handbooks or even DM's guides or storyteller guides very section by section. Otherwise, I just get frustrated. The layout of this book was very well done. I like it. I liken it to the new Camarilla source book. I was pleased with how it was laid out. Keep in mind, I spent 15 years in the newspaper industry where I not only was a reporter and a publisher, I also did layout and design for both the newspaper and special sections. It bugs me when I see wasted space. V5 core rulebook is an example of this. I just got really irritated with how they use the pages and that. So it's pleasing to me to see a book with good use of the space on the page, as well as proper use of white space, which I enjoy. Overall, I generally enjoyed the art in this book. In the Camarilla book, we had a lot of photographs. I didn't greatly enjoy that. I did enjoy the artwork in this book. I will say it's not Tim Bradstreet. Tim Bradstreet to me is iconic when it comes to Vampire the Masquerade. It was his art that drew me into the game all those years ago. That being said, I did enjoy the artwork in this book. What I didn't like about this book, well, I've said this before about some of White Wolf's books, especially Camarilla 1999, the Guide to the Camarilla book. Editing seems to be an issue, and maybe I'm being too critical. It just bugs me when I see mistakes in a book. I can deal with one or two here or there, but more than that, it really just starts to grate on me. It just seems lazy. This isn't the first time I've called it out on these books. I mentioned it in the Camarilla book where it seemed a whole section disappeared. The Guide to the Camarilla from 1999 was horribly edited. And again, I spent several years in the newspaper industry, and granted, I made my fair share of mistakes and I was called out for my mistakes. And I understand that when you work with this many words, mistakes happen. I get that. I also understand that to fix it, you just got to get more eyes on the product. The other thing I don't like about the book is there is a lack of representation of the Sabbat. There are a couple times where they're mentioned, and I know there hasn't been a lot of released about the Sabbat for V5. It just seems strange that they were, I don't know. To me, the Anarchs and the Sabbat are very closely related. I won't say tied, but there's a lot of similarities there, and their angst against the Camarillas. So it just seems strange that they would not be more represented. And like I said, they are in the book. There is a couple stories that include them. I just would have enjoyed more. Third thing I didn't like about the book, again, I struggle sometimes finding these things that I dislike about books. So once again, we're going to say that's it. Just those two things. So how would I use this book? Well, first and foremost, lore. I mean, and I say that with a lot of the vampire books. White Wolf does a great job of incorporating lore into their books, and they do a great job of not disregarding the books of the past. They include those. Maybe some things have to change here and there, but what I love about these books is that it's like we're getting an updated, okay, here's where the Anarch movement is in, 2018, which was when this book was written. I mean, there was a lot of stuff that happened in 2018. And again, they draw on all these current world events, which I know it's gotten them into trouble in the past. It makes it so where your games, your World of Darkness games, seem that much more real to your players. I don't know and maybe that's a good thing or a bad thing. I know sometimes we play these games to escape reality and we don't want to think about the real world, but World of Darkness has always been a mirror image universe. So the other thing that I would use this book for is the NPCs. All these people who are telling the stories. They are great characters that you can just drop into your campaign, can be a guide or whatever, however you want to use them. There is no stats. Keep that in mind. So you'd have to create those stats unless you just don't want them, used as in that aspect. You just want to use them as someone that the characters talk to. So there is a great opportunity to grab NPCs and drop them into your games, which I think is great. Lastly, it can be used as a source book. There's great, near the end of the book, there's a great section on how Anarchs view the different clans, as well as information on the disciplines. There's also, again, just reading through the stories, you can get some idea of like what it's like to be an Anarch vampire in a Camarilla-ruled city, that, a Camarilla vampire who's just become an Anarch, and, how they deal with that. There's a great story on that, which I would recommend reading. And so source book is absolutely how you would use this book. Great information, great stories, great way to help you to develop a campaign based on Anarch or an Anarch group, which Anarch groups seem to be fairly popular. So I don't think it would be a problem. So that's it. I always try to keep it to 3 categories: what I like, what I didn't like, and how I'd use the book. And I keep it with 3 sections in each of those. I know these tend to be pretty quick, pretty short little podcasts, but I'm not a book reviewer. I just talk about the books that I enjoy. And when I sit here and do it by myself, it's kind of hard to add a whole lot more without too much discussion. So overall, I really enjoyed it. Again, I would have liked to have seen the Sabbat better represented in this book, but I'm going to assume that we're going to get more information about the Sabbat for V5 in upcoming releases. So that's it for this episode. Remember, if you have a book you'd like me to discuss, you can always leave a comment below or drop me a message on Twitter at 307RPG. If you'd like to listen to some of the other things that I'm involved in, we do have actual play podcasts of Vampire the Masquerade. I am storytelling through the Giovanni Chronicles. We've played book 1. We are in book 2, Blood and Fire now, and we plan on playing through at least book 3. I'm not sure if we're going to do book 4. I'm also a player in our actual play Dungeons & Dragons, Dungeon of the Mad Mage game, so you can check that out. Plus, I will be DMing a new Scarred Lands campaign coming in the month of June. Lots of stuff going on at 307 RPG. So, that's it. I hope you enjoy the show, and we will talk to you later.